it's Victoria here and you're watching My Books and Me. Today I'm going to be doing the book buying tag, and I was not tagged by anyone, but let's face it, 50% or probably more of the tags done on YouTube are when you aren't tagged by anyone. But I thought this would be a good time to do the book buying tag. I've been wanting to do it for a while, and I thought, considering it's coming up to the holiday season and I buy a lot of books and I've been shopping not only for books but just in general, but mainly books, for Christmas and Christmas presents, I thought it'd be really good to do the book buying tag because I haven't really talked about buying books. You guys just know that I buy a lot of books. So let's get into it. Question one is, where do you buy books from? I mainly buy books online. I live in a small community and the closest proper bookstore is probably 1 to 2 hours away, depending on which direction you want to go in. So I mainly buy books online. It's very easy, very convenient, and most of the time it's usually cheaper. I will buy mainly from Book Depository, Booktopia, or Angus and Robertson Book World. I'll definitely try and buy from Booktopia and Book World more because they are Australian based companies. But sometimes if I'm looking for a book, it might be a lot cheaper on Book Depository. If I do go out anywhere that sells books, I usually buy from Big W and Kmart, sometimes Target, depending on what's there. They've got really good Big W and Kmart usually have a really good range of books, and again, they're nicely priced. However, if I do go to bookstores, it's usually Dymocks or Collins Booksellers, but they're usually on the pricier side of things, so I don't always buy a lot of books from them, but I'll definitely try and buy one or two whenever I'm near one of those stores. And if you want to compare prices for books from all different bookstores all around the world, online anyway, use booko.com.au. You just put the ISBN in and it will rank the price of books with the price of the book and postage, so you can figure out where the cheapest book is and where you want to purchase it from. Number two, do you ever pre-order books, and if so, is it in-store or online? I don't really pre-order books that much this year. I think I've pre-ordered 2 books. And if I do pre-order, it's obviously going to be online because I'm not near a store to pre-order in store. I don't know why I don't pre-order more often. I just think sometimes I don't want to spend the money on the book until closer to its release date or after its release date. And then also I do receive some books for review prior to obviously the release date, so I don't feel the need to pre-order them then. But yeah, I definitely feel like I should be pre-ordering more books, and I probably will in 2017. There are some really great books coming out next year that I'm going to want to get my hands on as soon as possible. But yeah. Number 3, on average, how many books do you buy a month? A lot. If you look back at probably all of my book hauls from this year, I've got over 10 books in every single book haul. It's actually ridiculous. So usually I probably buy between like 5 and 15 books a month. Sometimes some months I do get a number of books for review, so obviously I'm not counting them. Sometimes I can get between like 1 and 3. Sometimes I get between 1 and 4 books a month to review, depending on how many I've requested. So that aside, it's probably 5 to 15 books a month, which is quite excessive, but Number 4, do you use your local library? Not a lot. I mean, I have nothing against libraries or anything like that, but I have quite a lot of books on my shelf already that I have not read yet, so I feel like it's just sort of pointless to go to a library and then borrow a book. And for the most part, whenever I borrow a book from the library, I don't end up reading it. My library has 2 weeks of a 2-week loan period before you have to either return it or renew it, and I just never either pick the book up in that time, or I don't get very far. And in that 2 weeks, I can read between 1 and 3 books that I could. And in those 2 weeks, I can usually read between 1 and 3 books, and yet if I borrow a book from the library, I'm probably not going to read it. Number 5, if so, how many books do you borrow at a time? Like I say, I don't really borrow books from the library, but on the occasions I have, it's usually been 1 book, sometimes 2, depending on what I'm borrowing books for, but yeah, never really borrowing anyway. Number 6, what are your opinions on library books? I honestly don't know why people have issues with libraries and library books. It has caused a lot of drama on BookTube. But yeah, I have nothing against library books and libraries. I think they are great assets. I think they are great, especially in my community. I live in a small community, as I said. The nearest bookstore is a little bit far away. A library here is the only way people are going to be able to read a book or get a new book to read every 2 weeks kind of thing. I don't know why people have issues with library books. There is nothing wrong with them. They are just as great as a regular book that you buy. So yeah. Number 7, how do you feel about charity and secondhand bookstores? Again, nothing wrong with them. A lot of the books I own are from secondhand bookstores. We actually have a secondhand book in town, which has probably been here for about 18 months to 2 years. It's really good. There's so many books in there, it is not funny. I have nothing wrong with secondhand books and charity shops and things like that that sell books. I will always, whenever I'm in a charity shop, will buy a book, or I'll beeline to the book section and pick up something. I've been able to find books that I've either didn't know existed, I'd forgotten existed, or pick up a book in a series that I've been really wanting to read and I can get it for like $2. I do obviously, in some cases, I am reluctant to buy books from secondhand stores, especially books in series, because for series and even books by the same author, I want to try and keep them the same sort of edition kind of thing. So if I see a book in a bookstore that it could be $2, but if it's not the same as the rest of the books in the series I already own, I'm probably not going to get it. Or the same mark, if I've seen a book cover, which this is probably not something I should be like worrying about, but if I've seen a book cover that I really like and I want to get that edition of a book, if I see it in the bookstore again for say $2, I probably won't pick it up if it's not the book cover I like, or if it's a book cover that I definitely don't like of a book. I know that's probably a really bad excuse for not buying cheap books, but what are you going to do? Again, I don't see why some people also don't like buying secondhand books. I get people sometimes are worried about the quality of the book, but these stores aren't going to sell a book that has the cover ripped off or pages missing or that looks really bad. So definitely buy from a secondhand bookstore or a charity store. Seriously, you will find some really good hidden gems, and you will probably end up finding the book that you've been looking for forever for like $2. Definitely utilize these stores. Number 8, do you keep your Red and TBR books separate altogether? For those who don't know, my bookshelf is organised in alphabetical order by author surname for the most part. When you get to these book stacks, they're a little bit messed up depending on the size of the books and everything like that. But otherwise, it's all organised like that. So I do have a mix of read and unread, and I think I wouldn't like to have them I don't think I would actually like to have them separated, because my read to unread ratio is actually insane. I have so many unread books. I think it would probably cause me anxiety to see a small read shelf and a huge unread shelf. I feel like I'd be just like stressing that I have so many unread books. I mean, now if I look at my bookshelf, I can see quite a lot of unread books, but I can see heaps of read books scattered between it, so I don't feel so bad about having so many unread books. Number 9, do you plan on reading all of the books you own? Well, isn't that the goal of owning books? I definitely do hope to read them all. That's why I've got them. I haven't got them because they look pretty. I mean, most of them look pretty, but I haven't got them just for the sake of having books. There are obviously quite a few non-fiction books that I probably won't end up reading, but that's for obviously different reasons. But of all the books you see here and the books that are just behind you, I do want to read them all. That's why I've bought them, because I want to read them. And I think people who answer this question differently sort of have to reevaluate why they bought the books anyway. I definitely want to read them. There are probably definitely books on my shelf that I'm not going to read and I'll end up getting rid of them, but for the most part I do hope to be able to read most of the books, or all of the books that I own. Number 10, what do you do with the books you own but feel like you won't read them again, or you didn't like them? There haven't been many books that I have outright disliked and wanted to get rid of. Some books that I haven't liked so much, maybe I've given them between 2 and 3 stars. They've been books that I want to revisit in the future after I've read a little bit more widely. They've sort of been like classics that I want to try again when I've read other books and things like that. There's been nothing that I have wanted to get rid of straight away. Occasionally I do go through my bookshelf, especially when I'm trying to find more space on my bookshelf, and I evaluate some of the books that I've owned for a while and whether I'm going to read them or not. Occasionally I will get rid of some books where I think I'm not going to read this, and if I want to read it again in the future, I'll just get it from the library or I'll buy it again. But I do think long and hard about that, because I don't want to get rid of a book that I'm iffy about reading, but then turn around in a couple of months' time and then want to read it. I know now that there are books on my shelf that I've owned for years and I keep saying I want to read them. Ideally I probably should get rid of them because I haven't picked them up yet, but there's still books that I hope to read at some point. I just hope that I'll feel the urge to read them in the future. Number 11, have you ever donated books? It has been a while since I've donated books, but whenever I do get quite a stack of books I want to get rid of, I will donate them. Although since we have got our secondhand bookstore here in town, you can actually sell your books to them or trade them for other books, and I've done that, and I think that's I sort of preferred doing that more than donating books. I know that kind of sounds bad, and it sounds like, oh, I'm only in it for the money, but literally the last time I donated a big box of books, I ended up walking out of the store with new books in this box, nearly full again. So it's like, it was pretty much just trading books. But in the past, before we had this secondhand bookstore, I had been donating books to our local Red Cross charity store, and that was always really good. But now I'm sort of taking advantage of the fact that we have a bookstore that you can trade books to. So it's still sort of donating, you know what I mean? I'm still getting money for the books, but I'll turn around and end up spending more money anyway. Number 12, have you ever been on a book buying ban? Not a ban as such. I haven't like outright banned myself from buying books altogether, but I have sort of tried to set myself limits. For example, not that I ever stick to it, I try to say like 5 books, like 5 books that I'll buy myself. Like obviously some months I get subscription boxes with books, some months as I said I get books for review, but I try and limit it to 5 books that I buy. And you're probably sitting there thinking, going, Victoria, you haven't bought 5 books in your like only 5 books a month ever, and that's true. But I'll sort of, if I'm going for like this 5 book limit, I'll sort of go for books that are sequels to series that I'm currently reading, so that I know I'm going to read it pretty soon after it arrives, or books by authors that I'm really currently into and will probably read soon. But there are times when I do obviously buy more books, and I try, if I'm going to buy a book, I want to do it for a book that I either really want to read, books that I do actually want to read in the future. And I want to kind of take advantage of sort of discounts and sales and free postage and things like that. So even though I might be buying a lot of books, I'm trying to like take advantage of money saving ventures and things like that. So while I'm not a book buying, well, I haven't been on book buying bans, I definitely try and limit and cut back. It's not really working, but I'll get there eventually. And finally, number 13, do you feel you buy too many books? I'm going to say yes. I know there are probably people out there who buy probably the same amount of books I do a month, but don't feel like they're buying too many books. I feel like I'm buying too many books because of my read to unread ratio. I have so many unread books. I probably buy, for every 1 book I read, I probably end up buying 5, which is really bad. I feel like if I'd read more books, I would feel like I'm not buying too many books. But because I have so many unread books, I feel like I am buying too many. Like, it's at a point where whenever a new parcel arrives and it's a book, my mum will be like, will you stop buying books? Have you even read the ones you got last week? And she has a point. Like, I really should stop buying books. That's why I do want to cut back. But I just love all the books I've got, and I know I'm going to read them at some point, hopefully. But yeah, I definitely feel like I buy too many books. I definitely want to cut back. But at the end of the day, I don't regret it, because now I have the books and I can just read them whenever I feel like it. Not that I'm reading them, but that's not the point. That is it for the book buying tag. I'm going to tag anyone. Everyone can do it. I might link a couple people in the description below, but definitely do this if you want to. The original creator of this tag, by the way, was Megan Oliver. I'll link to her channel in the description below as well. Let me know in the comments below some of your answers to these questions if you don't feel like actually doing the tag. Do you feel like you buy too many books a month? And also, where are some of the places you get your books? And I'll also link to Booko in the description as well, so you can go check out and compare prices for books. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook and Instagram, and make sure you subscribe if you like what you see. I'll see you guys soon with another video. Bye!